The warning sirens screamed through Laboratory Section 7 like angry birds. Red lights flashed across every wall and ceiling. Deho dropped his tools and ran toward the sound without thinking. His boots hammered against the metal floor as he moved through the narrow corridors of the research station. He was supposed to stay in his section. The rules were clear about that. But Deho had never been good at following rules when someone needed help. The door to Section 7 was sealed shut. Through the small window, he could see smoke filling the room. Someone was inside. He could see a shape moving near the back wall, stumbling and falling. "Override code 74 Alpha," Deho shouted at the door panel. His security clearance should not work here, but the emergency systems let him through. The door hissed open just enough for him to squeeze inside. The smoke burned his eyes. He covered his mouth with his sleeve and pushed forward. The person he had seen was on the floor now, not moving as much. As he got closer, he saw the blue-silver skin and the glowing marks that meant she was Velhari, one of the alien scientists who worked on the station. Her name was Lyrae. He had seen her in the cafeteria sometimes. She always sat alone, reading on her tablet while she ate. Her breathing mask was broken, hanging loose from one side of her face. The glowing marks on her neck and arms were flickering like dying stars. "Can you hear me?" Deho knelt beside her and touched her shoulder. She opened her eyes. They were large and golden, filled with fear. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. She could not breathe the air that humans breathed. Her people needed different gases to survive. Deho looked around the room. There was no spare breathing equipment nearby. The explosion had destroyed everything. He checked his watch. The emergency teams would take at least 5 minutes to arrive. She did not have 5 minutes. Maybe she had one. His emergency kit was still on his belt. Every engineer carried one. Inside was a small medical shunt device, meant for connecting human blood supplies in emergencies. It was never designed for this, but Deho had spent years modifying equipment to do things it was not supposed to do. "This is going to feel strange," he said, though he was not sure she could understand him. He pulled out the shunt device and the connection tubes. His hands moved fast, setting up the equipment. He pressed one tube against his own neck, feeling the sharp sting as it connected to his bloodstream. Then he pressed the other tube against Lyrae's neck. She tried to pull away, but she was too weak. "Trust me," Deho said. "Please." He activated the device. Pain shot through his body as the shunt began pulling his blood through the filter system. The device was supposed to clean blood and return it. Instead, Deho programmed it to extract oxygen from his blood and convert it into something Lyrae could use. It was a crazy idea. It should not work, but humans were good at surviving in places they should not survive. Their bodies adapted. Maybe his body could adapt fast enough to save her. Lyrae gasped. Her eyes went wide. The glowing marks on her skin began to pulse stronger, brighter. She was breathing again, pulling life from his blood through the tubes that connected them. Deho felt dizzy. His vision blurred at the edges. He was giving too much, but he could not stop now. If he stopped, she would die. "Stay with me," he whispered, not sure if he was talking to her or himself. The emergency doors burst open. People in protective suits rushed inside, shouting orders. Someone grabbed Deho and tried to pull him away from Lyrae. "No," he shouted. "The connection has to stay. If you break it now, she dies." The medical team leader, a woman with sharp eyes, looked at the setup. She understood immediately what Deho had done. "Get them both to medical now. Do not disconnect anything." They carried Deho and Lyrae together, still connected by the tubes and the small device that pumped life between them. Deho's consciousness faded in and out as they moved through the station. He saw lights passing overhead. He heard voices talking in urgent tones, but mostly he felt the strange sensation of his body working harder than it ever had before, trying to keep 2 lives going instead of 1. In the medical bay, doctors and machines surrounded them. Someone was scanning his vital signs. Someone else was checking Lyrae's condition. The room buzzed with activity and worry. Oxygen levels are dropping, a voice said. "Give him a supplemental mask," another voice replied. "Her neural patterns are stabilizing. The shunt is overheating. We need to replace it." "No," the team leader said firmly. "If we disconnect them even for a second, we might lose her. Keep monitoring. Let the connection continue." Hours passed. Deho drifted in and out of awareness. Sometimes he saw the white ceiling of the medical bay. Sometimes he saw strange dreams that did not feel like his own dreams. He saw a world with purple skies and silver seas. He felt emotions that were not quite human. Fear, gratitude, confusion. He realized he was feeling what Lyrae felt. Somehow the connection between them had gone deeper than just blood and oxygen. Something had changed in both of them during those critical minutes when his body fought to save hers. When Daeho finally woke up fully, the first thing he saw was Lyrae's face. She was lying on a bed next to his, awake and watching him. The tubes still connected them, though the shunt device had been replaced with something more sophisticated. "You saved my life," she said in heavily accented but clear human speech. "Why?" Daeho tried to sit up but felt immediately dizzy. A nurse gently pushed him back down. "Stay still," the nurse said. "Both of you need to rest. Why did you save me?" Lyrae asked again. Her golden eyes searched his face, looking for an answer. Daeho thought about it. He had acted on instinct, not logic. "Because you needed help," he said finally. "That is enough reason." Lyrae's glowing marks pulsed in a pattern he did not recognize. Later he would learn it meant deep respect and confusion happening at the same time in Velhari culture. The medical team leader approached their beds. Her expression was serious. "We need to talk about your condition," she said. "Both of you?" "Something unexpected has happened, something we have never seen before." Daeho looked at the tubes connecting him to Lyrae. He looked at her alien face, so different from any human he had known. He felt her heartbeat somehow, as if it was echoing in his own chest. "What happened to us?" he asked. The doctor took a deep breath. "You have bonded. Your bodies have linked together at a cellular level. We are not sure we can separate you. We are not even sure we should try." The words hung in the air like smoke. Daeho and Lyrae stared at each other, two strangers connected by tubes and biology in one desperate act of kindness. Their lives had changed forever in the space of a few minutes. Nothing would ever be the same again. The medical bay smelled like chemicals and fear. Daeho sat on his bed while doctors pointed at screens and argued in low voices. Beside him, Lyrae sat perfectly still on her own bed, watching everything with her large golden eyes. The tubes connecting them had been replaced with smaller, cleaner connections, but they were still there, still keeping them alive together. Dr. Hana was the head of xenobiology on the station. She was older than most of the staff, with gray streaks in her black hair and a serious face. She stood in front of Daeho and Lyrae with a tablet in her hands, reading data that made her frown deeper with each passing moment. "Explain it to us in simple terms," Daeho said. "What exactly happened?" Dr. Hana set down her tablet and pulled up a holographic display between them. It showed two sets of cells, one human and one Velhari, connected by glowing threads. When you connected your bloodstream to Lyrae's through the emergency shunt, your body did something remarkable. Human cells are naturally adaptive. You can survive in more environments than almost any other species we know. Your body saw Lyrae's cells as something to protect, not attack. "So my immune system did not reject her?" Daeho asked. "Not only did it not reject her, it began working with her cells. Your body started producing oxygen in a form that her cells could use. Her cells started processing waste products that your body could recycle. You created a closed-loop system, a biological partnership." Lyrae spoke for the first time since the doctors had gathered. "How long will this last?" Dr. Hana's expression became even more serious. "We do not know. We tried to separate you this morning while you were both sleeping. Just a small test, moving the beds 2 meters apart." "What happened?" Daeho felt a chill run down his spine. "Both of your vital signs crashed within 30 seconds. Your oxygen levels dropped. Lyrae's neural activity became erratic. We had to bring you close together again immediately." The room fell silent. Daeho looked at Lyrae. She looked back at him. They were strangers bound together by biology and accident. "Can you fix this?" Lyrae asked quietly. Dr. Hana took a long breath. "There is a surgical procedure we could attempt. We would have to separate your cellular connections manually, one by one, but the success rate would be less than 40%. And if it failed, you would both die. So we are stuck like this," Daeho said. "For now, yes. I recommend we let the bond stabilize before considering any interventions. We need to study what has happened to you. This is completely new to medical science." Commander Taeyang entered the medical bay. He was a tall man with a military bearing and cold eyes. He looked at Daeho and Lyrae as if they were a problem he needed to solve. "How soon can they resume normal duties?" Dr. Hana crossed her arms. "They cannot be separated by more than 50 meters. All duties will have to be coordinated around that limitation." "That is unacceptable," Taeyang said. This station has protocols. We cannot have two people attached to each other wandering around disrupting operations. They are not attached by choice, Dr. Hana said sharply. Daeho saved a life. Would you prefer Lirai had died? Taeyang's jaw tightened. Of course not. But this situation creates security concerns. What if one of them is compromised? What if they need to evacuate separately? Then we deal with those situations if they happen, Dr. Hana said. For now, I am assigning them shared quarters. They will work modified schedules that keep them within range of each other. Daeho raised his hand like a student in class. Can I say something? Everyone turned to look at him. Lirai and I did not choose this, but we are going to have to live with it. So maybe everyone could stop talking about us like we are not here. A faint sound came from Lirai. It took Daeho a moment to realize she was laughing. The glowing marks on her neck pulsed in a pattern that seemed almost amused. He is right, Lirai said. We should have some say in our own lives. Dr. Hana smiled slightly. Agreed, so here is what happens next. You will both be released from Medical Bay tomorrow. You will move into quarters in Section C, which has been modified for both human and Velhari environmental needs. Daeho, you will continue your engineering work. Lirai, you will continue your research. When you work, you stay within 50 meters of each other. When you sleep, you stay in the same living space. Are there any questions? Many questions, Lirai said. But I suppose we will learn the answers as we go. The next day, they moved into their new quarters. The space was larger than normal station housing, with two sleeping areas separated by a thin divider. The air had been modified to be comfortable for both species. It smelled strange to Daeho with a metallic tang he was not used to. Lirai stood in the center of the main room, looking around with an expression Daeho could not read. Her glowing marks were dim, which he was learning meant she was tired or sad. This is strange, she said quietly. Very strange, Daeho agreed. He set down his small bag of belongings. Everything he owned fit in one bag. I have never had a roommate before, nor have I. Lirai touched the divider between the sleeping areas. Your people need privacy. Mine do not understand the concept. This will be difficult for me. What do your people do instead? We share spaces openly. Privacy is for shameful things. But I know humans are different. She pulled her hand away from the divider. I will adapt. Daeho felt a sudden wave of loneliness that was not his own. It crashed over him like cold water, making him gasp. I felt that, he said. Your emotion, your sadness, Lirai's eyes widened. And I feel your surprise. And your concern. She pressed a hand to her chest. This is the bond? I think so. Daeho sat down on the nearest chair. Dr. Hana said we might start sharing more than just breathing. Emotions, maybe even thoughts. They sat in silence for a long moment, each feeling the other's confusion and worry mixing with their own. Finally, Lirai spoke. I am grateful you saved my life. I want you to know that. Even if this bond is difficult, I would rather be alive and bound than dead and free. I am glad I was there to help, Daeho said, and I am glad you survived. But, Lirai tilted her head, sensing there was more. But I am scared. I do not know how to live connected to someone else. I have always been alone. I like being alone. I understand. I feel the same fear. Lirai's marks pulsed in a slow, steady rhythm. Perhaps we can be alone together. Is that possible? Daeho thought about it. Maybe, we can try. That night, they each went to their separate sleeping areas. Daeho lay in his bed staring at the ceiling. He could feel Lirai on the other side of the divider also awake. Their heartbeats were synchronizing. He could feel the rhythm of her pulse matching his own, beat for beat. It should have been frightening. Instead, it was oddly comforting. He was not truly alone anymore. For better or worse, someone else was sharing his existence now. Daeho, Lirai's voice came softly through the divider. Yes? Thank you again. For everything. You do not need to keep thanking me. But I want to. There was a pause. Sleep well. You too, Lirai. Daeho closed his eyes and felt sleep coming. As he drifted off, he felt Lirai drifting off too. Their consciousness fading together like two candles burning down at the same time. Connected, bound, learning to breathe as one. 3 weeks had passed since the accident. Daeho stood in the engineering bay, holding a plasma torch while Lirai sat at a workstation 5 meters away, reading through technical documents. They had learned to work in the same space without getting in each other's way. Mostly. Can you hand me the calibrator? Deho asked. Lyrae looked up from her screen. She pointed to a tool on the far counter. That one? No, the small one. Silver casing. She stood and walked over, studying the tools until she found the right one. Her glowing marks brightened slightly when she picked it up. A sign Deho now recognized as satisfaction at completing a task correctly. She handed it to him. Thank you. Their fingers touched briefly. The contact sent a small surge of warmth through both of them. They had discovered that physical touch made the bond feel stronger, more stable. It was uncomfortable at first, but they were getting used to it. Your heart rate just increased, Lyrae observed. Deho felt his face grow warm. You can tell that? I can feel it. Just like you can feel when I am hungry or tired. She returned to her workstation. The bond is getting stronger. Dr. Hana confirmed it yesterday. I know. Deho focused on his work, calibrating the plasma torch settings. We can separate by almost 100 meters now instead of 50. But we choose not to go that far apart, Lyrae added quietly. That was true. Even though they could separate more now, neither of them liked being too far from the other. The distance felt wrong, like missing a limb. The door to the engineering bay opened. A young technician named Jiwan entered carrying a data pad. He stopped when he saw Lyrae sitting at the workstation. Oh, I did not know you had company. Lyrae works here now too, Deho explained. Modified schedule. What do you need? Jiwan looked uncomfortable. The captain wants an update on the atmospheric processor repairs. But maybe I should come back later. Now is fine, Deho said. Lyrae does not mind. Lyrae nodded in agreement, though Deho felt a small spike of anxiety from her through the bond. She was still getting used to being around other people who stared at her glowing marks and whispered when they thought she could not hear. Jiwan handed over the datapad and left quickly. As soon as the door closed, Lyrae's tension eased. He is afraid of me, she said. He is afraid of what he does not understand. Deho corrected. Give it time. People will adjust, will they? Lyrae turned in her chair to face him fully. We are strange to them. A human and a Velhari bound together. Some think it is fascinating. Others think it is wrong. Deho set down his tools and walked over to her. He pulled up a chair and sat down. Do you think it is wrong? Lyrae was quiet for a moment, her marks pulsing slowly as she thought. I think it is strange. I think it is difficult. But wrong? No, you saved my life. How can that be wrong? Some people think we should have tried the surgery. That being bound is worse than the risk of dying. Those people are not us. They do not feel what we feel. Lyrae reached out and took his hand. The gesture was becoming natural now. I would rather be bound to you than be alone and risk losing this life you gave back to me. Deho squeezed her hand gently. Through the bond, he felt her sincerity. She meant every word. I feel the same way. They sat like that for a few moments, hands connected, feeling each other's calm presence. It was peaceful in a way Deho had never experienced before. Even in his quietest moments alone, his mind had always been restless. Now, with Lyrae's consciousness touching his own, he felt balanced. Complete. The peace broke when an alarm sounded through the station. Not the emergency alarm, but the announcement system. All personnel to the main conference room. Mandatory meeting in 10 minutes. Deho and Lyrae looked at each other. That sounds serious, she said. They arrived at the conference room to find it already filling with people. The station's crew was not large, maybe 200 people total, but the room felt crowded. Deho noticed the way conversation stopped when he and Lyrae entered. Eyes followed them as they found seats near the back. Commander Taeyang stood at the front of the room with Dr. Hana beside him. His expression was grave. Thank you all for coming on short notice, Taeyang began. We have received news from Earth Alliance Command and the Velhari Consortium. Both governments are aware of the situation with Engineer Deho and Scientist Lyrae. Deho felt ice form in his stomach. Beside him, Lyrae's marks flickered with anxiety. They have requested that both individuals be transferred to their respective homeworlds for comprehensive study. Earth Alliance wants to study the human adaptability factors. The Velhari Consortium wants to understand the biological mechanisms of the bond. They want to separate us, Lyrae whispered. Dr. Hana stepped forward. I have advised against this course of action. Separating them would require transport on different vessels, which could be fatal given their current bonding range. Additionally, the stress of separation and governmental study could damage the bond in ways we do not yet understand. Your objection is noted, Doctor, Tae-Yang said stiffly. However, this station falls under Earth Alliance jurisdiction. If they order the transfer, we must comply. Someone in the middle of the room stood up. It was Ji-won, the young technician from earlier. Sir, with respect, that seems wrong. They are people, not laboratory experiments. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Tae-Yang's expression hardened. This is not a debate. I called this meeting to inform you of the situation, not to ask for opinions. Then why tell us at all? Another voice called out. It was one of the Velhari scientists, a woman named Nala. If the decision is already made, why gather us here? Tae-Yang was silent for a moment. Then his shoulders sagged slightly. Because you deserve to know, and because I hoped someone might have a solution I have not considered. The room fell quiet. Everyone looked around, waiting for someone to speak. Finally, Daeho stood up. Lirai stood with him, their hands finding each other automatically. What if we refuse? Daeho asked. You cannot refuse a direct order from Earth Alliance Command, Tae-Yang said. But Lirai is Velhari. She does not answer to Earth Alliance. I answer to the consortium, Lirai added, and they have no authority over a human. Dr. Hana's eyes widened with understanding. They are bound together. Any order that applies to one must consider the other. Both governments would have to coordinate, and neither wants to give the other jurisdiction. A slow smile crossed her face. You are stuck in a bureaucratic loop. Earth cannot claim Lirai. The Velhari cannot claim Daeho, and separating you is medically dangerous. So they are trapped, for now, Tae-Yang said. But they will find a way around this eventually. Both governments want access to you. Then we will deal with that when it happens, Daeho said firmly. But we are not going to be separated. Not without our consent. Lirai squeezed his hand. Through the bond, he felt her fear, but also her determination. She was with him completely. The meeting ended without resolution. As people filed out, several crew members stopped to speak with Daeho and Lirai, offering quiet words of support. Ji-won shook Daeho's hand and nodded respectfully to Lirai. That night, in their quarters, they lay in their separate sleeping areas, but both knew neither would sleep well. The threat hung over them like a dark cloud. Daeho? Lirai's voice came through the divider. Yes? If they force us apart, I want you to know something. These weeks with you have been strange and difficult, but also good. You have taught me about human kindness, about sacrifice. You have taught me too, Daeho said, about acceptance, about finding peace in unexpected places. Do you think we will survive this? Daeho felt her fear through the bond mixing with his own, but he also felt something else. Hope, determination, the strength that came from not being alone. Yes, he said, we will survive together. The message arrived during breakfast. Daeho was eating rice and vegetables while Lirai consumed a pale blue nutrient paste that smelled like metal and flowers. They had learned to tolerate each other's food smells, though neither wanted to try what the other ate. The message came through on Daeho's personal tablet. Official seal, priority flag. He opened it and felt his stomach drop. What is wrong? Lirai asked immediately, sensing his distress through the bond. Synthesis Corporation. They want to meet with us. Daeho turned the tablet so she could see. They are offering money. A lot of money. Lirai read quickly, her marks flickering with concern. They want to study the bond. They say they can help others achieve what we have achieved. She looked up at him. What is Synthesis Corporation? A bio-augmentation company. They modify people. Enhanced strength, improved senses, extended lifespans. Very expensive, very powerful. Daeho set down his chopsticks. And very dangerous. There have been rumors about them for years. Illegal experiments. Accidents they cover up. Should we meet with them? No. Daeho deleted the message. Definitely not. But the messages kept coming. One every few hours. The offers got larger. First money. Then research positions. Then promises of safety from government interference. Synthesis Corporation was persistent. On the third day, they came in person. Daeho and Lirai were in the station's garden section, a small area with real plants grown in artificial soil. Lirai liked to sit among the growing things. She said it reminded her of home. They were sitting on a bench sharing comfortable silence when two people in expensive suits approached. Engineer Daeho, Scientist Lirai. The woman in front was tall with perfect features and a smile that did not reach her eyes. I am Director Yuna from Synthesis Corporation. This is my colleague, Dr. Kwan. We told you we were not interested, Daeho said coldly. Please, just give us 5 minutes of your time. Yuna sat down on the bench across from them without waiting for permission. Dr. Kwan remained standing, watching them with intense scientific interest. What you two have achieved is remarkable. The first successful cross-species biological bond. Do you understand how valuable this is? We did not achieve anything, Lyrae said quietly. We had an accident. An accident that created something beautiful, Yuna said smoothly. Think of the possibilities. Humans could bond with species that breathe toxic atmospheres. Explorers could survive in environments that would kill them alone. Soldiers could coordinate perfectly with their partners. The applications are endless. You want to weaponize us, Daeho said flatly. We want to help humanity reach its full potential, and we want to help you. Both governments are circling like predators. They will tear you apart trying to understand what makes you work. But Synthesis Corporation can protect you, give you resources, let you live freely while we study the bond in a safe, controlled environment. For how long? Lyrae asked. Yuna's smile widened. For as long as necessary. That means forever, Daeho stood up, pulling Lyrae with him. No, we are not interested in being your laboratory animals. Dr. Kwan finally spoke, his voice cold and clinical. You do not understand the pressure you are under. Both governments want you. Extremist groups on both sides think you are an abomination. Where will you run? How will you hide? You need protection. We will find our own way, Lyrae said, her marks flaring bright with anger. They walked away, leaving the corporate representatives behind. But Daeho felt the weight of Dr. Kwan's words. He was right. They were trapped between forces much larger than themselves. That night, the threats began. The first message was simple text, sent anonymously to both their personal accounts. Genetic traitors deserve death. The second message included images. Photos of Daeho and Lyrae walking through the station, eating in the cafeteria, working in their respective areas. Someone had been watching them. The third message was a video, a masked figure speaking in distorted voice. Humanity must remain pure. The Velhari woman has corrupted one of our own. This cannot stand. Justice will be served. Lyrae watched the video with her marks completely dark, a sign of deep fear. They want to kill us. They want to scare us, Daeho said, though he was scared too. He reported the messages to station security, but Commander Taeyang seemed unconcerned. Extremists make threats all the time, Taeyang said dismissively. Very few follow through. I will increase patrols near your quarters, but I cannot assign personal guards. We do not have the resources. 2 days later, someone tried to make good on the threats. Daeho and Lyrae were in their quarters, preparing for sleep, when the environmental controls failed. The air suddenly became thin and cold. Alarms should have sounded, but there was only silence. Something is wrong, Lyrae gasped, her marks flickering erratically. Daeho ran to the control panel. Someone had locked them out. The temperature was dropping fast and the oxygen levels were falling. In the modified atmosphere of their quarters, this was deadly for both of them. Override panel, Daeho muttered, pulling off the cover plate. His engineering training took over. He worked fast, bypassing the lock rerouting controls. His fingers were already numb from the cold. Beside him, Lyrae collapsed. Through the bond, he felt her consciousness fading. The temperature was hitting critical levels for her physiology. Stay with me, Daeho shouted. He pulled out 2 wires and crossed them. Sparks flew. The environmental system came back online with a loud hum. Warm air flooded the room. Oxygen levels rose. Lyrae gasped and sat up, her marks slowly brightening again. Someone tried to kill us, she said. Yes. Daeho helped her to her feet, and they almost succeeded. They reported the incident immediately. This time, Commander Taeyang could not dismiss it. Security investigated and found evidence of tampering. Someone had hacked into the environmental controls remotely. The investigation led nowhere. Whoever did it had covered their tracks well. You need to leave the station, Dr. Hana said when she came to check on them. Both of you. It is not safe here anymore. Where would we go? Daeho asked. Somewhere the corporations and governments cannot easily reach you. Somewhere neutral. Dr. Hana pulled up a star map on her tablet. Frontier Station Kepler. It is on the edge of known space. Independent jurisdiction. They do not answer to Earth Alliance or the Vellery Consortium. I have contacts there. That is weeks of travel, Lerai said. Better than being dead, Dr. Hana replied bluntly. I can arrange transport on a small research vessel. You leave quietly before anyone knows you are gone. Deho looked at Lyrae. Through the bond he felt her fear but also her trust in his judgment. What do you think? I think Dr. Hana is right. We cannot stay here. The threats will only get worse. But we would be running away, Deho said. Hiding. We would be surviving, Lyrae corrected. So that someday, maybe, we can return and show everyone that this bond is not something to fear or exploit. It is something to celebrate. Dr. Hana nodded approvingly. I can have you ready to leave in 2 days. Pack light. Tell no one. The next 2 days were tense. Deho and Lyrae went through their normal routines, trying to act as if nothing had changed. But they were constantly watching, constantly aware that someone on the station wanted them dead or captured. On the second night, they packed their few belongings. 1 bag each. Everything else would be left behind. I am afraid, Lyrae admitted as she sealed her bag. Me too. Deho took her hand. But we will face this fear together. Just like everything else, she squeezed his hand. Through the bond, he felt her fear mixing with determination and something else. Something warm that he was only beginning to recognize. It felt almost like affection. Maybe even love. Together, she agreed. At midnight, Dr. Hana came to their quarters. The ship is ready. We need to go now, while the night shift is minimal. They followed her through empty corridors, moving quickly and quietly. The research vessel was small, barely larger than a shuttle, but it was fast and well-equipped. As they boarded, Deho looked back at the station that had been his home for 3 years. He was leaving behind his life, his work, his safety, but he was not leaving alone. Lyrae stood beside him, her hand in his, her presence in his mind. Ready? She asked. Ready, he confirmed. The ship's engines powered up. They were leaving everything behind, running into the unknown. But they were running together, bound by biology and choice and the growing connection that was becoming something neither of them had expected. Something that might actually be worth fighting for. The research vessel was called the Songbird. It was old but reliable, with cramped quarters and barely enough room for 3 people. Dr. Hana piloted while Deho and Lyrae shared the small crew cabin that smelled like recycled air and engine oil. 3 weeks to Frontier Station Kepler, Dr. Hana announced over the ship's intercom. Maybe 4 if we have to take detours. Try to get comfortable. Deho looked around the tiny cabin. There was 1 sleeping area, a small table, and barely enough space to stand without bumping into something. He looked at Lyrae, who was examining the room with her glowing marks pulsing in what he now recognized as amusement. Comfortable, she repeated. That is optimistic. At least we are safe, Deho said. For now, Lyrae sat down on the sleeping pad. But they will look for us. Both governments. The corporation. We cannot hide forever. We do not need forever. Just long enough to figure out what comes next. The first week of travel was quiet. They fell into a routine. Dr. Hana needed minimal sleep and preferred to pilot alone, so Deho and Lyrae spent most of their time in the crew cabin. They talked more than they ever had before. About their lives before the accident. About their fears and hopes for the future. Deho learned that Lyrae had left her homeworld to study humans because she found them fascinating. Your people adapt to everything, she explained one night as they shared a meal. My people are brilliant, but we are rigid. We cannot change easily. Humans bend like water. You survive in places that should kill you. Is that why you were studying us? Yes, I wanted to understand how your minds work, how you solve problems that seem impossible. Her marks brightened with what Deho now knew was affection. I never expected to become part of a human directly. Are you disappointed? No. She reached across the small table and took his hand. Surprised. Scared sometimes, but not disappointed. The bond had grown stronger during their time on the ship. They could separate by almost 200 meters now, though they never tested the full distance. More importantly, they had learned to control the emotional sharing. They could still feel each other's presence, but they could also create privacy when needed. It is like having a room in my mind where you live, Lyrae explained. I can visit that room and feel everything you feel. Or I can close the door and be alone with my own thoughts, but I always know you are there. I feel the same way, Deho said. It is comforting. knowing I am not truly alone anymore. On the 8th day, their peace ended. Dr. Hana's voice came urgently through the intercom. "We have a problem. A ship is following us." Deho rushed to the cockpit with Liray right behind him. On the scanner screen, he saw a vessel matching their course and speed. It was larger than the Songbird with more weapons and better shields. "Can you identify them?" Deho asked. "No identification beacon, but based on the ship design, I would guess bounty hunters. Synthesis Corporation probably put a price on your heads. Can we outrun them?" Dr. Hana shook her head. "They are faster, but I can try to lose them at the next jump point. There is a dangerous route through an asteroid field. Most pilots avoid it." "Most pilots are not running for their lives," Liray said. "Do it." The chase began. Dr. Hana pushed the Songbird to its limits, the old engines screaming with the effort. The pursuing ship fired warning shots, trying to disable their engines without destroying them. They wanted Deho and Liray alive. "Asteroid field ahead," Dr. Hana announced. "Hold on to something." The Songbird plunged into a dense field of spinning rocks. Dr. Hana's hands flew over the controls, dodging and weaving between massive asteroids. The pursuing ship followed, firing continuously. "They are gaining," Dr. Hana said through gritted teeth. "I have an idea," Deho said suddenly. "The asteroids. They are rich in iron deposits. If we could generate a strong electromagnetic pulse near them, it would create interference. The ship's power core could do that," Dr. Hana said. "But we would lose all power temporarily. We would be drifting blind." "But so would they," Liray added, understanding Deho's plan. "And they are moving faster. They would fly past us. It was risky, but they had no other choice." Deho ran back to the engine room and started rerouting power. Liray stayed with him, feeding him tools and helping with calculations. Through their bond, their minds worked in perfect synchronization. He knew what she was thinking before she spoke. She anticipated his needs before he asked. "Ready?" Deho shouted to the cockpit. "Triggering pulse in 3, 2, 1, now." The ship went dark. All lights, all power, everything shut down. They floated in silence through the asteroid field, surrounded by spinning rocks that could crush them at any moment. Through the small window, Deho saw the pursuing ship flash past them, unable to stop or turn without power. It disappeared into the asteroid field ahead. "Did it work?" Liray whispered in the darkness. "Wait for it," Dr. Hana said. Seconds later, power slowly returned. The lights flickered on. The engines hummed back to life. Dr. Hana checked the scanners. "They are gone. Lost in the field trying to restart their systems?" She laughed with relief. "That was brilliant. Absolutely insane, but brilliant. They escaped the asteroid field and continued their journey. But everyone knew it would not be the last attempt to capture them. Over the next week, they encountered 2 more bounty hunter ships. Each time, Deho and Liray worked together to escape. His engineering skills combined with her scientific knowledge created solutions that neither could have found alone. They were becoming something greater than the sum of their parts. "I have never worked with anyone like this," Liray said one night as they lay in the small sleeping area. They had stopped using the divider between them. There was no point. The bond made privacy meaningless. "Like what?" Deho asked. "Like my mind is connected to another mind. When we were fixing the power core earlier, I knew what you needed before you asked. I could feel your thoughts forming. I felt the same thing. It is like we are becoming one person." "Does that frighten you?" Deho thought about it. "A month ago it would have terrified me. Now, I think I am starting to like it." Liray rolled over to face him in the dim light. Her marks glowed softly, casting blue-silver light across both their faces. "I like it too, more than I expected to." "Liray, I need to tell you something." "I already know," she said softly. "I can feel it through the bond." "You care about me? More than just as someone you are connected to?" "Yes." Deho reached out and touched her face gently. Her skin was cool and smooth, so different from human skin. "Is that wrong?" "No, because I feel the same way." Her marks pulsed brighter. "We did not choose this bond, but I think I would choose you anyway, even without the connection." They moved closer together, holding each other in the small sleeping area. The bond sang between them, their heartbeats perfectly synchronized, their breathing matched. 2 more weeks to Frontier Station Kepler," Deho said. 2 weeks, Liray agreed, "and then we start building a new life. Together. Always together." Outside the ship, the stars streamed past as they traveled through hyperspace. Two beings from different worlds bound by accident and choice fleeing into the unknown. But they were not afraid anymore. Whatever waited for them at the end of this journey, they would face it side by side. The bond that had seemed like a curse was becoming a gift. Not just biological connection, but something deeper, something that felt almost like destiny. And for the first time since the accident, both Deho and Lyrae felt genuinely happy. Frontier Station Kepler appeared on the view screen like a small city floating in space. It was massive compared to the research station they had fled, with dozens of docking arms extending out like the legs of a metal spider. Ships of every size and design crowded around it. Deho counted at least 20 different species vessels. "Welcome to the edge of civilization," Dr. Hana said from the pilot seat. "Kepler Station does not care who you are or where you came from. Everyone here is running from something. Will they let us stay?" Lyrae asked. "If we can pay our way and follow the rules, yes. Captain Minho runs this place. He is former Earth military, but he left all that behind decades ago. He does not answer to any government." The Songbird docked smoothly. As they exited the ship, Deho felt immediately overwhelmed. The docking area was chaos. Aliens of species he had never seen before walked past, speaking languages he did not recognize. The air smelled like a mixture of 1,000 different worlds. Lyrae moved closer to him, her hand finding his automatically. Through the bond, he felt her anxiety and wonder mixing together. This way, Dr. Hana led them through the crowds to an elevator that took them up several levels. They emerged into a quieter corridor lined with offices. At the end was a door marked Station Administrator. Dr. Hana knocked. A gruff voice called out, "Come in." Captain Minho was older, maybe 60, with gray hair and scars on his face that spoke of a violent past. He sat behind a desk covered in data pads and empty coffee cups. His eyes were sharp and calculating as they looked over Deho and Lyrae. "So you are the famous bonded pair," Minho said in Korean. His accent was from Earth, specifically Seoul. "The one everyone is looking for." "We are just trying to survive," Deho replied. "Survival costs money here." Minho leaned back in his chair. "Can you work?" "I am an engineer. Atmospheric systems, power cores, general maintenance. And you?" Minho looked at Lyrae. "Xenobiology. I can work in medical labs or research facilities." Minho nodded slowly. "I can use both of those skills. Station always needs maintenance and our medical section is understaffed. But I need to know something first. Are you going to bring trouble to my station?" "We hope not," Dr. Hana said. "But there are people looking for them. Governments, corporations, bounty hunters." "Of course there are." Minho stood and walked to the window overlooking the station. "Listen carefully. Kepler Station has one rule above all others. What happens here stays here. Any government that tries to enforce their laws here gets kicked out. Any corporation that causes problems gets banned. Any bounty hunter that starts trouble gets spaced. Understood?" "Understood," Deho said. "Then welcome to Kepler. Find yourselves quarters in Section D, Level 15. That is where most of the mixed species housing is. Report to your work assignments tomorrow." Minho turned back to them. "And try not to let anyone separate you. I hate complicated medical emergencies." They found their new home later that day. The quarters were small but comfortable, similar to what they had on the research station. The main difference was the view. Their window looked out at a nebula, swirling clouds of purple and gold gas lit by distant stars. "It is beautiful," Lyrae said, standing at the window with her marks glowing in appreciation. Deho stood beside her, their shoulders touching. "It feels right, like we are supposed to be here." The first weeks on Kepler Station were busy. Deho worked in the engineering section, fixing broken systems and improving efficiency. His boss was a four-armed alien named Vrex who appreciated good work and did not ask personal questions. Lyrae worked in the medical research lab, studying various species' biological needs. Her supervisor was an elderly human woman named Dr. Sumi, who treated her like a valued colleague rather than a curiosity. In their free time, they explored the station. Kepler was like nothing either of them had experienced. Every level was a different culture, a different atmosphere. They ate food from worlds they had never heard of. They listened to music in alien languages. They met people who were running from the same forces they were running from, and the bond continued to evolve. 3 months after arriving at Kepler, Dr. Hana called them to her small laboratory. She had been studying their bond quietly, taking samples and running tests whenever they had time. I have been analyzing your cellular data, she said, pulling up holographic displays. The changes are remarkable. Your cells have not just adapted to each other. They have merged at a fundamental level. Deho, your body now produces compounds that Lyrae needs. Lyrae, your body processes waste products that help Deho. We knew we were connected, Deho said, but you do not understand how deeply. Dr. Hana expanded the display. You can now separate by over 500 meters without distress. You have voluntary control over the emotional sharing. Most remarkably, look at this. She highlighted a section of data. Your cellular aging has almost stopped. Both of you. The bond is regenerating your cells faster than they can age. Lyrae's marks flared bright with shock. We are immortal? Functionally, yes. Barring accidents or violence, you could live for centuries, maybe longer. Your bodies are in a constant state of renewal. Deho sat down slowly, processing this information. Because of the bond. Because of how the bond formed, Dr. Hana corrected. The human adaptability factor combined with Velhari's cellular efficiency created something entirely new. You are not just bonded, you are a new form of life, a true hybrid consciousness inhabiting two separate but connected bodies. Is this permanent? Lyrae asked quietly. I believe so. The bond has stabilized completely. You could separate if you wanted to for hours at a time, but you would always come back together. The connection is too deep to break now. After Dr. Hana left, Deho and Lyrae sat in silence in their quarters. The implications were overwhelming. They would live for centuries together. They would never truly be apart. The temporary bond had become eternal. Are you angry? Lyrae asked finally. No. Deho took her hand. Surprised. Maybe a little scared, but not angry. I feel the same way. Her marks pulsed slowly. 3 months ago I would have been terrified. But now it feels right. Deho finished her thought. They stood together at their window, looking out at the nebula. Somewhere out there, people were still searching for them. Governments still wanted to study them. Corporations still wanted to exploit them. But here on Kepler Station, at the edge of known space, they had found something unexpected: peace, freedom, and something else that had grown slowly from forced connection into genuine feeling. I love you, Deho said suddenly. The words came out before he could stop them. Lyrae turned to face him, her marks glowing brighter than he had ever seen. I know. I have felt it through the bond for weeks now. I was waiting for you to say it. And you? I love you too. She moved closer, pressing her forehead against his in a Velhari gesture of deep affection. We did not choose how this started, but I choose you now. Every day I choose you. They stood like that for a long time, two souls bound by biology and accident, now bound by something deeper. They had lost everything. Their homes, their old lives, their freedom to be truly separate. But in losing everything, they had found each other, and that was worth more than all the things they had left behind. Outside their window, the nebula swirled in eternal dance, beautiful and vast and uncaring. But inside their small quarters, two beings who had been strangers were building something that might last longer than stars themselves. A bond forged in desperation, tempered by danger, and strengthened by choice. A love that transcended species and biology and every rule that said they should be impossible. They were impossible. They were eternal. And they were finally home. 6 months had passed since Deho and Lyrae arrived at Frontier Station Kepler. They had built a life together. A real life. Deho had been promoted to chief engineer of his section. Lyrae had published 3 research papers on cross-species cellular cooperation. They had friends now, people who saw them as normal rather than strange, but the peace could not last forever. The news came through official channels. Reports of Synthesis Corporation, conducting forced bonding experiments. They were taking humans and aliens, connecting them artificially, trying to recreate what Deho and Lyrae had achieved naturally. The experiments were failing. Horribly. Deho read the reports with growing horror. Subjects were dying. Some went insane from the forced connection. Others survived but became violent, their minds breaking under the strain of an unwanted bond. The corporation was creating monsters, not partners. They are using our names, Lyrae said, reading over his shoulder. They claim their work is based on studying the Deho-Lyrae bond. They are saying we proved it was possible. We have to stop this, Deho said. How? We are fugitives. If we show ourselves, both governments will take us. Dr. Hana entered their quarters without knocking, holding her tablet. I have been contacted by someone from Earth Alliance and someone from the Velhari Consortium. Separately, they both want the same thing. To capture us, Deho said bitterly. No, to help us. Dr. Hana set down the tablet. They have seen what Synthesis Corporation is doing. They realize now that forced bonds are dangerous. They want you to testify, to explain how your bond formed naturally, to stop the experiments. Why would they suddenly help us? Lyrae asked. Because public opinion has turned. The experiments are being broadcast on the news networks. People are outraged. Both governments are facing pressure to act. But they need proof that natural bonds are different from forced ones. They need you. Deho and Lyrae looked at each other. Through the bond, he felt her fear and her determination mixing together. This was dangerous. But it was also the right thing to do. If we go back, can they guarantee our safety? Deho asked. Captain Minho has already negotiated terms. You will be granted diplomatic immunity by both governments. You testify, you stop the experiments, then you come back here. No one touches you. Can we trust them? Lyrae asked. Can we trust anyone? Dr. Hana replied. But I think this is your chance to change things. To show everyone that what you have is not something to fear or exploit. It is something to respect. They agreed to go. Captain Minho arranged transport on a fast diplomatic vessel. Dr. Hana came with them, bringing all her research data. The journey to Earth took 2 weeks. Earth looked beautiful from orbit. Blue and green and white, covered in clouds and oceans and life. Deho had not seen his home planet in 5 years. He felt a sudden longing for things he had left behind. Korean food, spring rain, mountains covered in autumn colors. It is lovely, Lyrae said, sensing his emotions through the bond. I understand why humans are so proud of it. They landed at a government facility outside Seoul. Security was heavy. Military personnel lined the halls. But no one tried to separate them. No one even suggested it. Word had spread about what happened when they were forced apart. The testimony took place in a large conference room. Representatives from 50 different governments and species sat in attendance. Cameras recorded everything. The session would be broadcast across human and Velhari space. Deho and Lyrae sat at a table in the center. Their hands were joined on the table surface, their bond visible to everyone through Lyrae's glowing marks that pulsed in time with both their heartbeats. The Earth Alliance representative spoke first. Please explain in your own words how your bond formed. Deho told the story. The accident, the emergency decision, the shunt connection, everything that followed. Lyrae added details about the cellular changes, the emotional sharing, the gradual development of their connection. And at any point, did you choose this bond? The Velhari Consortium representative asked. No, Deho said honestly. At first, it was forced on us by circumstances. But later, yes. We chose to stay bonded. We chose each other. Why? The representative pressed. You could have attempted the separation surgery. Because by the time it was safe to try, we did not want to separate anymore, Lyrae answered. The bond had become part of who we are. Removing it would be like removing our souls. Dr. Hana presented her research next. She explained in scientific terms what Deho and Lyrae had explained emotionally. The bond was stable because it formed naturally, through human adaptability responding to genuine need. The forced bonds were failing because they lacked the organic development period. They lacked choice. They lacked consent. The key factor is human adaptability, Dr. Hana concluded. Human cells can adjust to almost any environment, any situation. But that adaptation requires time and natural development. Forcing it artificially creates instability. The bonded pairs need weeks or months to synchronize. Synthesis Corporation is trying to do it in days. It cannot work. A Synthesis Corporation lawyer stood up. Are you saying our research is fundamentally flawed? Yes, Dr. Hana said bluntly. You are creating torture, not partnership. Every forced bond you create will fail. The subjects will die or go insane. Because you cannot force love. You cannot force acceptance. Those things take time. The room erupted in discussion. Representatives argued with each other. Scientists debated the data. But slowly a consensus formed. Forced bonding was unethical and dangerous. Synthesis Corporation's experiments must stop. New laws must be created to prevent similar abuses in the future. After hours of testimony, the session ended. The Earth Alliance and Velari Consortium jointly announced new regulations. Synthesis Corporation would be shut down. Its executives would face trial for their experiments. The victims of failed bonding would receive medical care and compensation. Most importantly, a new law was passed. The Kepler Accord, named after the station that had given Daiho and Liray sanctuary. It protected cross-species relationships and banned forced biological modifications. It recognized that bonds like theirs, while rare, were valid and deserved legal protection. Daiho and Liray were offered positions at the new Hybrid Studies Institute, being created to research natural cross-species connections. They would be co-directors with full authority over research ethics and methods. "We accept," Daiho said, "but we work from Kepler Station, not Earth or Velhara Prime." "That is acceptable," the Earth Alliance representative said. "You have earned the right to choose your own home." Before leaving Earth, they visited Daiho's family. His mother cried when she saw him. His father stood silent, not knowing how to react to his son's alien partner. But his younger sister, Gina, hugged both of them and declared that Liray was now part of the family. They traveled to Velhara Prime next. Liray's world was everything she had described. Purple skies, silver seas, cities that glowed with bioluminescent light. Her family was more accepting than Daiho had feared. They welcomed him with traditional ceremonies and treated him with respect. "They like you," Liray said as they left her family home. "How can you tell? They shared their inner light with you, see?" She pointed to his arm, where faint glowing marks had appeared on his skin. "Those will fade in a few days, but it means they consider you one of us now." The final ceremony took place on Kepler Station. Captain Minho officiated, combining human and Velhari marriage traditions. Hundreds of people attended, representing dozens of species. The event was broadcast across known space. Daiho wore traditional Korean hanbok. Liray wore Velhari ceremonial robes that shimmered like water. They stood together at the observation deck with the stars visible through the massive windows behind them. "Do you, Daiho, choose this bond?" Minho asked. "I do. Today and always." "Do you, Liray, choose this bond?" "I do, without hesitation." "Then by the authority of Kepler Station and the Kepler Accord, I recognize your bond as sacred and eternal. What biology has joined, let no law or government separate." They kissed, human style, and then pressed foreheads together, Velhari style. The crowd erupted in applause and celebration sounds from a dozen different species. In their quarters that night, they stood at their window as they had so many times before. But this time everything had changed. They were no longer fugitives. They were pioneers, symbols of what was possible when different beings chose to connect. 3 new bonded pairs have formed, Liray said softly. "Dr. Hana told me today. A human and a Keltar, a Velhari and a Rosen, a human and a Silurian, all natural, all voluntary." "We started something," Daiho said. "No, we proved something was possible. Others will follow." Daiho thought back to that day in the laboratory. The smoke, the fear, the desperate decision to share his breath with a dying stranger. He had saved one life, never knowing it would change everything. That one act of kindness would ripple outward, creating waves that touched entire worlds. "Do you ever regret it?" Liray asked. "The accident, the bond, everything that followed, never." He pulled her close. "You, never." Her marks glowed bright and steady. "We could not breathe alone. Now we breathe together, and the rhythm we create is more beautiful than anything either of us could have made separately." Through the window, the stars shone eternal. Somewhere out there, other bonded pairs were forming.